fixing to start kicking ass, just like it said at the beginning of the program.
Man of the hour, tower of power, too sweet to be sour.
Sending your ass on the jabroni jet to the other side of the territory, brother. The Alabama Hammer.
Nightmares are the best part of my day.
The goods from the wood.
Hot damn!
Welcome to the Goods from the Woods. My name is Rivers Langley.
I'm Pat Riley.
Joe Raines here.
Got Joe Raines on mic number 3, and our special guest today, returning to the show for the first time in too damn long, our friend.
Hi, I'm Anna Valenzuela.
Anna Valenzuela's back. Yeah.
Hello.
So the last time Anna was on the show, talked about martial arts a lot.
Yeah,
talked
everything.
about kicking ass.
Yeah. Got into it. It was fun. Still have hip dysplasia from that. It's a real bummer. I was talking to my my sensei on Facebook because he's an old-timey guy.
That's
who's
such a cool sentence.
That is
talking to my sensei on Facebook.
On Facebook, like in the thread, not even like a DM situation.
Just in the comments?
Just right in the comments. And he was like, why don't you come back? And I was like, I hurt my back. And it was so funny because I was like, well, basically I can't rotate my hips anymore. And he was like, well, best of luck to you. And I've never felt more rejected in my life.
Wow. He was just like, well, you're done.
I know. It was so sad. I'm like,
Sensei. No, Sensei, say it's not true.
I know. I want to punch, like I was talking about this on stage last night. I am really good at a front kick to the dick. That is my
that's
signature move.
If I'm not mistaken, that is the image on your most recent comedy tour poster.
It is
you doing just that. Yeah.
Exactly. That's my I've got a fast front kick and I miss it every day of my life. Like I miss, because 3 days a week I would like leave my shitty job and like before going to stand up, I would go and I would sweat. So I would smell just like an open mic by the time I got to the open mic.
Yeah.
I would sweat my balls off and I would kick dudes in the dick. And it was the best thing in the world.
There is something very fun in a sparring situation of kicking somebody square in the dick. I remember doing that when I was 12. I went to a different school, like because we were just like,
that's my purse.
No, so there was.
I don't know you.
So we were going to the mall or buying a TV or something, which for my dad is like if we're buying a TV that's like an 8-hour excursion where he's just like standing and looking at two TVs right next to each other and trying to figure out any possible difference between the two.
Which one has like the brighter display?
Yeah, just total dad move. But there was a taekwondo school there, and I was in the class, and I was sparring up against this kid that was just really aggressive. Like, he was just really aggressive. And at one point, he was like, taking liberties and stuff. And I was up on him, and he, did something. I forgot what it was. And I just was like, you know what? And we kind of went out of the direction, and I just kicked him square between the legs.
You're not supposed to do it. I'm not supposed to do it either.
I presume it's like you have a cup, right? That's where you wear a cup.
Thank you. That was always my argument, because they'd be like, God damn it, Anna, who hurt you this week? And I'd be like, no one hurt me. You should be wearing a cup.
Yeah. And so
it doesn't give you like carte blanche to kick dick, though.
Yeah, but it was the thing where this kid was like definitely, taking liberties, and I just kicked him right between the legs, because if you're wearing a cup, it's just a little like shocker, right? Where you feel something, right?
Yeah.
You feel something, but it's like, okay, we need to step back and cool this thing down. No, this kid was not. He was just boom, hit him between the legs, and afterwards, unbeknownst to me, he was the school bully.
No.
So all these parents came up to me afterwards, just like low-key, like, hey, to my dad, and be like, hey, tell your son thank you very much. He's been bullying my kid, and hopefully this will be a come to Jesus moment for him. So I came into the school just one day, and I said everything straight.
Whoa.
You just walk right up to him. It's like, it's not a question of if I'm going to kick you in the testicles. It's when.
Hey,
It's when,
WWE
sir.
says be a star. I was a star that day.
That's amazing.
And I stood up to bullying.
Oh, my God.
I thought about you in the whole self-defense thing recently, because I thought I was going to have to need it. I was at an open mic, and there was a guy there who legitimately scared the shit out of everybody. This dude had flaming red hair, like bright red hair, and he had a beard. But what was really disconcerting was that his hair length and his beard length were identical.
Oh, no.
Why is this scary, though?
I haven't
means
gotten to the part yet.
He's only got one clipper in the psych ward.
Right. I'm theater of the mind, Joe. I'm putting you there. I'm putting you in the space. So it looked like he just had like a weird like a cozy on his head or something.
Has he blinked at all?
No.
Yeah, all right, blinking is an indication of lunacy, in my opinion. You either blink too much or not at all. I don't want to talk to you. You too fucking crazy.
So to set this up, this was a past guest of the show, Dave Waite, posted on Facebook, and he was like, "Hey, I'm hosting an open mic." And of course, Dave Waite's like a fucking headliner. So
Just
I'm like,
a sweet, nice man.
Anytime headliners are hosting open mics, it's always the funniest thing because they don't give a fuck at all.
Yeah.
And Dave, his open mic
especially does not.
His open mic was amazing.
Oh man,
he goes up and he's like, all right, so I'm gonna put up people in the bucket, and I'm gonna put up one bucket, and then I'm gonna put up whoever I want. And that's all I'm gonna run it. And so he was just going, and this guy goes up, and it was probably an hour and a half into the mic, so everybody's just getting
the witching hour.
Yeah, the witching
Usually
hour. People are getting the silly billies, just
Do you
wanting to
guys
leave.
ever set an alarm in your phone at a mic for like, once it's an hour and a half here, I gotta get the fuck out of here.
It's time to go.
Because if I go on stage, I'm only gonna be mad.
Yeah.
So I have to leave.
I'm of the school of mind where I put the effort to get here. If I've waited an hour and I'm still not going on stage, I will wait. Even if I'm the last, I will wait till the very end, just as a fuck you to the host at that point where I'm just like, oh no, I waited. We're gonna do this, and I will stare at you in my entire set.
I like that. Just direct eye contact.
See,
because at an hour and 30 is what I like to call the Yasamura twitch, where you basically just like that's the way it always would be, like an hour and 30 into whenever Yasamura was hosting, or if he had to wait at an open mic, it would just be like that was the point where he just kind of jettisoned the jokes, and it just became full on rant.
Yeah. Oh man.
Like these fucking people here, and it's like
him or Nazmo that was also good about that.
Yeah,
he would just turn into basically a roasting whoever was just on stage.
Nazmo being the pseudonym of I don't actually know his real name, but he was Nazmo King, as in no smoking. So yeah,
funny.
LA comedy is great. But so this mic, and this might just be sign of the times.
Yeah.
There were 3 comics that had jokes about living in their car.
Oh, Jesus.
Like there was
the housing crisis in California.
The mic started at like 10 p.m., so it was already kind of like dire, but then...
Well, they had no other place to go.
Yeah, there were all these people talking about being homeless and living in their cars. But then this dude comes up, and he's got the red hair. The hair's the same length as the beard, which was the thing I was focused on. I was just like, what?
Was it a short hair situation?
Yeah, it was short.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right,
but it was like... it was beard length. He had beard length hair, kind of like I do, but then his hair was like kind of kinky the way your beard is. So he just looked like he had a giant beard over his head. It was real fucking disturbing.
Sure.
And he did this set where he was just screaming at the crowd about living in his car, and his jokes sounded more like threats.
No.
Where he was, and the one joke I committed to memory is, and again, this is not my material. I want to give credit where credit's due.
Yeah,
this was the crazy guy who probably had a knife, and he was going, it was like, you know the best thing about dating when you live in your fucking car? Some bitch gives you your number. I'm just like, bitch, I'm already outside your house. I live here now. And he was staring into everyone's eyes, like doing the Predator scan, just like hunched over, like he was, fucking,
wow.
Just staring into people. And like the crowd was just like disturbed. Like it wasn't a fun, like, and of course I'm a maniac. So I was just like,
to be fair, that's a solid joke.
That's amazing. And all of his jokes had been like that. They had just been
delivered terrifyingly, but a solid joke.
Yeah. It's like, and then he left, and then Dave gets up there. He's like, is anyone else scared? I'm kind of scared.
Wow.
And as he's saying that, we heard the door to the venue just like slam shut. And Dave was like, "Oh, was that him? Oh shit.
Hot dog."
And hot dog. Uh-oh, zip. And we were all just like legitimately scared. I was like thinking back to your episode, actually. I was just like, all right, I think I know I could probably pull up the episode on my iPhone and listen to enough self-defense shit from Anna to maybe make it to my car if Beardhead comes after me. Yeah.
Keys in hand, pepper spray on lock. Just make sure that you're completely aware of your surroundings. Get to your car and be prepared to run that motherfucker over.
Yeah, be prepared for Beardhead. Beardhead's a coming. I told somebody somebody else that, and apparently he's been showing up at other mics. So I think Beardhead's here to stay, which is
awesome.
Fascinating. I can't wait till he gets funny, or he is already funny.
He's already very
Less
funny,
terrifying
but for the wrong reasons.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
What was the? I think I've told some version of it on here, but what was the Hooters incident, Joe?
Well, this was like a few months back, so this is back when Hooters had an open mic.
Hooters on Hollywood Boulevard.
On Hollywood Boulevard
They
had
have
an
a
open
great
mic.
open mic, by the way.
It was
used to
fun.
be fun, yeah.
It was interesting.
It was in the upper area.
Yeah, it was in the upper
Yeah.
area, and basically what it was is
For those listening, by the way, we have a lot of listeners outside of LA. We're talking Hollywood Boulevard, Walk of Fame, Chinese theater.
yeah, where all the
Yeah,
tourists
this is-
and
this is
the
part of tourist country.
the fake
So this is the
superheroes
Hooters
and-
that everybody that is visiting goes to because they think that whatever chain establishment on Hollywood Boulevard is going to be the best version of it. So this is going to be the best American
Well, it's
Eagle,
also,
the best Aeropostale.
it's like
the best Cabo Wabo.
This-
It's like
Yeah, yeah.
shitty.
They really are flagship
Shitty
stores.
people who were just like,
like
I
the
don't know what
best
any of these
Sephora.
other restaurants are. Shit, man, they got a Hooters. I got like Hooters. Let's go to Hooters. Like
and
they
Hooters
just
Yeah.
is objectively the worst chain restaurant in my
they got
opinion.
feathers
But
in their breading.
Not just
What?
in terms of the
Yeah, I mean, it's routinely on like online. You'll see pictures where there's feathers in their breading.
That's
yeah,
the
not just on the gender politics level, on the level of the food, like both. It's just kind of like it's not.
I wonder what they could get away with if their food was banging. You know what I mean? Like
Oh, yeah.
what they could get away with as far as like waitress decorum. Like could they just walk out?
It
like,
would probably actually
pasties?
hinder them because people who like good food aren't going to be down for like naked ladies everywhere. So it'd just be like rednecks who just be
What?
like, man, this tastes good, but it was a lot better when it was kind of shitty.
I
Like,
gotta explain to you how the addiction center of the brain works. So basically, when you fire serotonin and dopamine into any center, you want more of that. It's our dumb human
I don't
brain.
think it would work.
So like that beautiful combination of like beer, delicious hot wing sauce, and titties is what they're going for. But what if the hot wings and the beer were even better?
Yeah, it was craft beer and artisanal.
and then you'd have to start charging more, and I just don't think it would work.
Oh, you're against the price hike.
Yeah, they already charge too much.
It's already
Yeah, I
very
mean, that's what I'm saying.
expensive.
If you started making high
Yeah.
quality, come on now.
it's already
anyways,
overpriced.
we're going to the mic, and
It's
it's
a recipe for comedy. This
and the
place.
mic is full of like everything you expect on Hollywood Boulevard. So you got like a guy dressed up like the Joker who does jokes as the Joker.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was run by some of the store comics. So the first like 15 comics were always like the store comics.
I remember one of the Joker's jokes, by the way.
Which one was it?
He goes, he's like, yeah, dating is really hard. Her parents just annoy me. They're always like, let me out of this trunk. Let me out.
Go Joker!
So that's not my joke. That's the Joker on Hollywood Boulevard.
Has anyone booked the Joker on a thing? 'Cause he's committed. He is every time I see him, I'm like, because he is in character. He is super terrifying as the Joker. I feel like we got to give him credit where credit's due.
Yeah.
Probably. I imagine somebody has. If Adelson Fitzgerald was getting bugged, I imagine he was getting bugged.
I had to explain to my roommate who that was. She was like, once I was at a mic in LA, and this man with 3 names.
So he started crying.
He seemed like an adult I could ask a question of. And then he was super intense and he went on stage and he just yelled at everybody. And I was like, oh, that's just Addleston. When he's off his meds, he does comedy. When he's on his meds, you see him run. I saw him hiking once, like up Griffith Park. I
Yep.
see him up there all the time, actually.
Too. That's where he is. People are like, what happened to that guy?
I mean,
I'm
that
like,
is
he's
it's
on
a
the
center for crazy people getting right. Like, if
Yeah.
you're changing your life, you go to Griffith.
Yeah.
I do remember the sight of him because he was trying to hit multiple mics. So he left the Unurban still wearing his panties and bra.
Oh, from when he
running
used to,
into his Nissan Pathfinder
Oh, have you not seen
parked
him do
across the street.
Have you not seen him
No.
do that classic bit? There's
No.
a bit that he does where
Baby,
he,
was it something baby?
He-
Man baby or something?
Mr. Pregnant.
Mr. Pregnant.
He
yeah,
goes
yeah.
up in panties and he has a bib and a bonnet and he puts the song Big Girls Don't Cry on his iPad and plays it and then proceeds to legitimately cry. Just like where it's
Why have I not seen
No,
that?
he was doing a straight up set in his bra and undies, and he like
Also, yeah. There's
Was he-
also
did he
YouTube
also wear
videos.
I only saw him in the suit, so in my mind, I'm
Yeah, no,
imagining
these
a
were
suit
like-
with bra and underwear.
no.
on
He
top.
was wearing straight up. He was in his birthday suit, and then there was bra and panties on.
I mean,
top
he
of
has
it.
like a YouTube videos. It's like where he would go up to cops in New York City when he lived there and do it. Like,
Yeah, and he would
was
be
like doing very like man on the street Billy Eichner things
But he'd be
before that
wearing
was a
Billy
thing.
Bob teeth and like a pot on his head. But he was just wearing straight up the bra and panties, and he just did his set in the bra and panties, and he just like busted out of the back of the Unurban. Like I don't know if he was hiding under like a plant or something like that. He like snuck out like a stealth like ninja, and he just like came out, and I was just like, oh my God. And he proceeded to envelop me because he's a very large man.
Yeah.
And that's I'm a big guy. I'm a big guy, but he's very large, and then he finished his set and he had to get to the West Side Comedy Theater. So he just grabbed his stuff in his bra and panties and booked it into his car across the street. So he crossed Pico into his car so he could speed off in his bra and panties and get to the West Side Comedy Theater before drawing or whatever.
Did he have to walk through the Trader Joe's parking lot?
Yes.
I feel like that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very awesome.
If the TJ's was open, that would have probably resulted in a mace situation.
I mean, these were
like
I mean, imagine loading avocados into your Prius,
and
you see a 7-foot tall man with dreadlocks in his panties running across.
Yeah, 300-pound man in seduction red.
It's definitely seduction.
Why did I imagine baby pink? Why did I imagine baby pink? I was like, what would go best with his skin tone?
No, this is like Valentine's Day seduction red. Yeah.
I imagine it was like his mom's or his grandmom's or something.
I love it. We never finished your story. What happened?
So anyway, it was a mic at the upstairs of the Hooters. So in your head, think of upstairs Hooters comedy show. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah, if you're listening to this and you have no idea what he's talking about, just imagine a Hooters
that has a comedy
second
show.
Story,
with
a bunch of comedians,
and not like normal ones. Like half of
not good. No,
the Hollywood comedians.
And so the Joker guys there. There's like regular homeless people. There's regular crazy people there. There's like some store comics there. And then
lots of like Lithuanians and
like
Norwegians.
random a table full of Brits who are just screaming pussy for no reason.
Foreign whites.
Foreign
whites.
And so this one time, this guy goes up with a big bucket of props, an accordion, and starts playing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." And so far, like, this is weird.
This is an innocuous Mr. TV like situation. Here.
And then
I feel like the Gong Show was pranking you.
Yeah, we were all like, sure, this is like not normal.
There is a point at a mic where you think to yourself, of course.
Yeah, and plus there's also two separate other accordion comics in LA. You got Boris and
French accent.
Oh yeah, French accent's kind of fun.
He's been on like AGT, I think.
I gotta say, Dave Waite, we mentioned him earlier, had my favorite tweet of the year where he said, sometimes I go to comedy shows and see performers and I'm like, oh man, why am I even doing this? And then sometimes I go to comedy shows and I see performers and I'm like, why am I doing this? Like that is brilliant.
Accurate, yeah. So like this guy gets up there, he's playing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" on his accordion, and I'd like to mention
a straight up version of "Take Me Out to the Ball."
Yeah, he's just like on his accordion, and like at no other point does he touch any of the props except for one prop later. But like he brought up a thing of props for no reason, which is fine.
He thought he was going to have time for 2 bits.
I guess, yeah. So he's playing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game."
That's a 3-minute mic. You got to hustle.
And then, it's not a long bit of time, mic. And so then he pulls his pants down. You're like, okay. And then he pulls a bat out of the prop thing,
like a souvenir,
like a souvenir
bat, like one of the little
you
bats
get on Bat Day at Dodger Stadium.
Yeah, that kind of bat, and proceeds to shove it up his ass.
Whoa! His real butt.
His real butt with the Indian grip. The Indian grip. He sticks that up his ass. So obviously the whole bat's not in his ass. So it's hanging out.
So wait, no, is it just crack or is it in the hole?
No, it's in. Like he put this in his ass.
So he squatted down.
So he's been pulls his pants down a little bit. Oh, this is taking a weird turn. Grabs
now a sex crime.
Grabs the souvenir bat while still doing the keys with the left hand, and then
which takes a lot of concentration.
Exactly, bends over.
I can't even play guitar and talk at the same time.
The handle part goes whoop right up his ass. No issues. Right up his ass.
So his whole ass was out.
Yes.
Okay.
Like his pants are on his ankles.
Okay.
And
I just had to remember that. I had to double check.
And so, but like his underwear is covering his dick, but his pants,
but
his ass is out. You see it all butt cheek. And so the bat's up there, and he continues to play the song, and the guys running the Hooters mic are like trying to like light him to get him the fuck off because they don't want to get in trouble, which they did. This is the reason there is no longer a Hooters mic.
That's like a health code violation.
Well, it's just
And a sex crime.
I think from the Hooters perspective, it was just like, why the fuck do you have a guy putting a thing in your ass in a restaurant? You're over. But anyways, this is not. I haven't gotten to the
waitress walking through. Ah!
Yeah.
well, no, the waitresses were like unfazed. Like,
They've seen some shit.
Oh, yeah, and
fucking Hooters waitresses in Hollywood
the
are like
Hooters-
Vietnam vets. They've
Yeah.
seen some
And
shit,
if you've ever
man.
watched the
I mean,
episode
she's
of Undercover
walking-
Boss about Hooters, what they like have the waitresses do, it's just like
No.
that's all like it's some Hooters for real.
I imagine the boss of Hooters is just a bottle of hair gel in a suit.
no, the waitress walks by. I
Just
guess
a
she
cloud
saw
of
it, but
Axe
like
body
she
spray.
she like did not register on her face at all, and she just went about her business like this is a thing. And then
I'm Douche Vapor, the president of Hooters.
The table full of Brits is just like screaming. They actually you're like, you know how like some people clap? Well, the British dudes, as soon as they saw his ass out, started slamming the table and singing the lyric. I don't know how they knew the lyrics. They don't have baseball in England. They're slamming on the table, singing along with him, clapping.
Yeah.
Because they're drunk Brits. They're totally down for whatever is happening.
I like that they sung. It would be almost
Good for
funnier if they were
them.
doing like, ole, ole. They were doing soccer chants and
some
shit.
of them, well, half of them were doing that, and the other ones, I guess, were like lived here longer.
but did they continue singing when the guy?
Oh yeah, they
penetrated
thought that
himself?
was the funniest thing ever. The table full of Brits almost died from laughter. They were the only ones laughing. Everybody, there was an audible gasp, and then everybody's like shocked, and then the table full of Brits is lost it. Like you think Benny Hill's on
huge.
TV?
Yeah.
So he's
If
got.
he had
thumbs
broken
up my
into
bum.
yakety sax, that would have been.
so he's,
those people would have come.
So he goes back to like doing full on accordion with both hands with the bat hanging out of his ass, and then so they light him or whatever. He registers it, finishes the song, puts his shit together, leaves his pants around his ankles, and leaves the bat in his asshole. So he pulls his stuff up in his hand.
The logistics of this are so rough.
So if you've ever been there, they do have a stage that's lifted.
Yeah.
You have to step down.
So
now.
he hops down. This is the only.
Check out my podcast. My podcast is called Figuring It Out with the Baseball Freak.
Freak.
So he hops down off the stage with his hands full of the accordion and like the prop bag or whatever, and then his pants around his ankles, his underwear's with his ass out. And so if you ever went to the mic, there was like
boxer
tables.
briefs?
Yeah.
He's playing like boxer briefs, yeah. So like
He had to go through a sea of tables.
so there's
to
a sea of
leave.
tables, but this is the only part where I was just like, yes, that's funny. Where he's weaving through the tables, but the bat is still in his asshole, so it's wagging like a dog's tail. So as he's weaving through the tables, the bat's wagging back and forth like a dog's tail, hitting people. So he's like walking like this, like swinging his ass trying to get through, and the bat's just going wild, swinging back and forth like a tail. And so everybody's just watching this lunatic like weave through the tables with a bat flying around out of his asshole. And then this is the part. That's the part I thought was funny. This is the part where I'm just like, what? He goes around the corner to where the bathroom is, right? So he's waddling down the hallway to the bathroom with a baseball bat wiggling out his asshole. His asshole's just out. And so people are like standing like back up against the wall trying to like let him through.
Why?
And then he stops. This is the part where I was like, what? He stops in front of the bathroom, puts his stuff down, pulls the bat out of his ass, puts it in the bag, pulls his pants back out, composes himself, puts all his shit together, and walks out in front of the fucking bathroom that he walked all the way through. Why wouldn't you pull the bat out of your asshole inside the bathroom, pull your pants? Why would you stop in front of the bathroom door and to do all of that? Like, it makes no sense. The whole hallway is abandoned. You have all the privacy. Why did you stop?
So this is that anti-comedy they were talking about in that Vox article.
Yeah. I mean, he can't. He probably couldn't make it any further.
He made $1,200 a week doing stand-up in L.A. according to the Hollywood Reporter.
Yo, I'm gonna
As a
let you
newcomer
know.
to L.A., he made $1,200 a week.
That motherfucker earned it if he did.
Oh, yeah.
That is amazing.
See, this is.
I mean, I think his asshole was fine because, like, it was not a like wincing face sticking up my ass. It was like a. Whoop.
yeah, because obviously you have to build up to a point where you can do that publicly, and I think it's.
And if he was making it wag like a tail on purpose, then hats off to him. That's the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't think he was.
He was
though, 'cause
doing ass kegels so he could jiggle
the
a bat.
way he was swinging through the tables, I think it was just physics the way the bat was swinging.
Yeah.
But if he was making it move on his own like a tail as a joke, then God damn it, he's the funniest person alive, and I hope he wins an Emmy.
I
Did he Do you remember his name?
Fuck no, I don't even remember.
Why would you remember anything else?
It was the goddamn Hooters mic. No, everybody's looking at either at their feet or their phone until you either hear a joke you think's funny and go, huh, and then look back down, or some asshole's got a bat in his ass and you're like, wait, when did this start? Like, how did this come? Like, I mean, honestly, I heard him, I saw the accordion and heard him singing, and in my head I was just like, well, this is going to be a train wreck. Maybe I should check this out. I look up and I just start watching it because
this is why we have to be engaged in our careers.
Yeah, and I was just like, you know what? I'm going to check this out. This is going to be a total train wreck. And it was different from at least like the 20 guys doing bad introduced ice clays. And so I was just like, all right, well, I'll watch this. And I looked up and I was like, all right, well, he's playing an accordion, I guess. There's a few of those. All right, well, he dropped his pants. I guess that might be kind of funny.
I've seen this on stage before at open mics. You know,
I've
seen
seen a whole ass at. I saw a woman just turn around and lift up her skirt, and it was just the whole ass
at a mic.
At the audition mic for the Laugh Factory.
Very
Wait,
good.
so she sat outside.
She sat
for 6 hours.
No,
there was there's a I can't. I'm forgetting her name right now, but there's like an LA alt comic who was doing that for a hot minute. That was like a bit she would do where she would just drop her pants mid-act and do jokes.
I used to do a boob grab thing in the middle of my act where I'd make someone grab my boobs because I had tumors in my stomach.
Yeah,
I mean, that seems fair.
You managed to traumatize my friend.
I'm sorry. I realized I was so angry at my body I shouldn't have been doing that.
I'm sorry. Your friend came to Butt Rock Brett's Comedy Ozfest and was traumatized? What did he think he was getting into?
I was so agitated. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I was like, why? I've seen a video of it. I'm like, well, it's funny. It's shocking, but it's not necessarily, it's kind of ass batty is what it is.
Well, I was
going to
say, I just, at the begining of September, had my my 6th anniversary in Los Angeles. And
Congrats.
I'm not looking for that. I'm just saying, I think I've been...
Good, because you're getting none of it from me.
Well, no, I've been in the damn circus too long because the part of that story that fucks with me is I just think it's like great and hilarious up until he takes the bat out of his ass and then just puts it back into his stuff unwashed.
Yeah.
You know?
I never thought about that.
That's the worst part.
Have an ass bat.
Everything up to that point.
I bet he was taking public transit too. So somebody had to sit next to him on the fucking train with his goddamn ass bat, and they're like, "What's that smell?"
It's my ass bat.
Honestly, Rivers, you're not a real comedian because your first question would be, "Did he run the light?" That's true.
That's true.
Well, I don't think that should count.
Respect the light.
No, he didn't. Yes,
he didn't. He didn't have to respect the light because they cut him off early. And if it's an open mic, you can't do that because that's the whole point of an open mic. Because everybody gets whatever time.
Yeah,
so if you're just like, well, you get the light. Well, fuck you. It's an open mic.
But he didn't run it because he's a professional.
Here's the deal. If that's why I don't run that open mic, because if I did, I would have let him have unlimited time.
You just let him go.
I would have just I'd be like, guys, he's reached 3 minutes, and we're just gonna see where this goes.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I would have totally let him. I would have let him
see what
could run the course of. I would hope everything in that bag was eventually going to go in his asshole. Like, that would be the.
Funny.
That would be the. If he just kept sticking things in his ass.
His special is just his.
That's actually funny as fuck.
It's a good thing that he didn't play that dun 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 because he would have had to put a hockey stick in his butt.
So hard transition here.
Hard transition. Where do we go from here? This is just a veiled attempt for me to talk about the Great British Bake Off for like 2 hours. That's all I want to do is talk about the Great British Bake Off.
I think there's only 2 of us that have
I've always wanted to watch it, but I've never actually said that I watched it. My favorite cooking show of all time is Two Fat Ladies.
Now, you like a great big breakfast, don't you? Oh, yes. A great Frenchwoman in the morning. Yes. And through the day, come to think of it.
Well, one has to keep one's strength up, don't you know? But no, I do love a breakfast. You know, coming down in the old days, sort of hunting or shooting breakfast, everything laid out beautifully. And I have porridge every day for my breakfast. And whatever else God provides.
Sets you up for the day.
That's right. And to this I'm going to add some sweet corn, which I've cut from the cobs. It's the real taste of the deep south. Everything is sweet corn down there. It's about all I have, honey child.
Hush puppies.
Hush puppies, grits. You name it, they have it with sweet corn.
That is bar none, the best cooking show of all time. I will die on this hill. This is the best thing ever because it's, of course, two fat British ladies, and they make the most disgustingly fat food that you've ever seen. And they have these weird British lady accents, and then they just eat things covered in pig lard, fat lard, butter.
Suet?
Like literally
That's a
one
thing
time,
they cook with suet. You're like, whoa, like
they like literally one time it was she put butter over chicken, then bread over the butter, then butter on the bread, then another piece of bread with butter on top of that, and then guess what she put on top of that? Butter. It was the best.
So did she then like say an incantation and Paula Deen popped out?
I mean, no, they're dead now because they put
Why? What did they die from?
They put lard and butter on everything. They died of being fat.
I would have like London train bombing. It was tragic.
The credits would open with them in a 1950s motorcycle with a sidecar. So it'd be one giant lady driving the motorcycle, then another giant lady in the sidecar, and they like putt around back roads of England. Yeah, and they putt around back roads and pick up supplies, which was always meat, bread, onion, butter, potato.
But that's called living life like a champion. That's exactly.
I'm not complaining. This is the best TV show of all time. They put lard on everything.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, these ladies are awesome.
Oh, I already love this. This is outstanding.
This might get us through the break.
What, they loathe each other?
I think they were just very friendly.
We'll put this on our Twitter. You can find us at The Goods Pod.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's
it was bad. I mean, like they would make desserts where it would have mostly butter and sugar, and you'd be like, "What is this besides butter and sugar?" And it would just be like a tiny little like cracker or something, and then like a pound of butter, and you're just like, "How is this even on TV?"
It's a hot buttered peach.
Yeah, exactly.
One slice of peach, one stick of butter, 1 pound of sugar.
Oh my God, one of those ladies looks like you, Rivers.
Dude, well, no, that's what I was getting. Yeah. It was the skinnier one for the record. But no, I was going to say.
The first thing we do is cover it in butter, sugar, and lard.
This is, and I'm far be it from me to body shame anybody. That's the biggest sidecar I've ever seen. That's just a car.
It looks like a VW bug. The sidecar is a VW bug.
It's a motorcycle.
Actually, the sidecar will float in water.
And it's like she's holding this picnic basket like she has state secrets in it.
It looks like
should be
it looks
their
like
recipe. Their recipes, and it just says butter.
But it looks like one of those sexy boats that James Bond pilots around Monaco and like GoldenEye and shit in the James Bond.
Today
movies.
we're gonna shop for food in France. We're gonna ride our car across the English Channel.
I mean, that sidecar is awesome.
Yeah, it looks like the bat cycle from the Adam West Batman.
Yeah, except that Robin is 500 pounds.
Except Robin, is 300 pounds.
It looks like the Bat Cycle is pulling the Batmobile.
That's so funny.
Dear Lord. That show they used to show that on PBS, right? I think
PBS, and then SNL used to make fun of it on sketches. That's how I discovered it. Is SNL had this hilarious. I think it was Horatio Sands.
Another popular health snack these days is the rice cake. Jennifer and I have been making our own version of rice cakes for years. The best way to bake a rice cake is to start with 2 cups of bacon grease, and then you mold it into the shape of a rice cake, like so. One very simple, and then you're done. You've just made a rice cake. And you know, I also like to snack on these while I sleep.
I was like, what the hell is this? And my sister was like, you don't know about the 2 fat ladies? And I was like, no. And then like the next time it came on, we watched it together, and I was just like, this is amazing. They put fat on everything.
Yay.
Even like stuff that doesn't even wouldn't even think to put it on there, like something like a sweet
salad.
Tart.
Yeah,
like a salad or a sweet tart, and it'd be like, we're gonna put 5 sticks of butter. Like they would literally have a pan, and they would drop stick after stick after stick of butter and lard.
It's not just that they used butters; they used varieties of butter, like multiple varieties. Where it's like, you got chicken vegetable butter, and then you have your clarified butter, and then you put some ghee on it, and then we have yak butter. You know,
this is my mother's famous 4-butter salad.
Yeah, this is just the skillet butter. Next, we're gonna put the regular butter on it later, but this is just the skillet butter, and then we're gonna put the lard on it because the lard greases the butter in the pan. You don't want to burn the butter on the pan.
All the way to Norway to get this sea lion butter,
puffin butter. I caught these puffins in my mouth on the sidecar.
This came straight from the Falkland Islands. This is puffin butter.
We went to war specifically to secure this butter.
We hit these sheep on the road on our giant sidecar this morning, so we're gonna have sheep crepes with 8 pounds of butter and oleo.
Sheep crepes.
If you've never had sheep crepes before, it's very simple. You just get the crepe and you cover it in butter, lard, sugar.
You take a sheep, put it under a steamroller and flatten it, and then cover it in sugar, Nutella, and roll it. Jesus. Shout out to our British listeners. Thank you guys for sticking with us through that.
Shout out to the two fat ladies.
But no,
that's amazing.
The thing I want to say about this is like everybody jumps down America's ass about being fatsos. It's like, hey, we learned it from you guys.
Yeah, but our fat cooks are kind of monsters.
We learned it from watching you, Dad.
What's her face? Paula Dean's a monster, but the two fat British ladies are just unfortunate looking nice ladies. Like they are just wonderful people. Like we got who do we have? Who do we have that's good people? That's a cook. Paul Prudhoe. He's dead, but he was cool. But that's like it.
Justin.
Don't we like that barefoot
Cajun
contention?
chef?
Yeah, he's fine. But the rest of those dudes off Iron Chef that were American were either like horrible monster wife abusers or like you know stole money from something or ripped off a restaurant from somebody that was like started it.
That's why you need to watch the Great British Baking Show.
Yeah.
Because it will restore your faith in humanity.
I'm not gonna watch any cooking show unless their teeth are worse than mine. That's just how that works.
First off, it's the Great British Baking Show. I can't believe as a comedian you missed the fact that their teeth are 200% worse than this. Like they open their mouths and it looks like they're aliens from some sort of movie.
But that just means
it looks like
means
their first word is going to be
they're going to be
one
they've been
ugly
concentrating on
motherfucker.
other things. They haven't been in the bathroom brushing. They've been in the kitchen cooking. That's how I know they know what they're doing.
Yeah, the Great British Baking Show is amazing because the stakes it's a competition show. The stakes are they win a plate. That's it. They win a plate that says, I am the greatest baker this year.
Yeah.
See, I don't even. I need high stakes.
Well, so the thing is that all the high stakes are incidental, right? Where it becomes a thing where if you become the Great British, I
do love British TV.
The Great British Baker of the season
of that year,
it would be a thing like one of them, Nadia, made I believe she
got her own show,
and she made the cake for some major royal event.
Yes.
I don't know if it was a royal wedding or if it was the Queen's birthday when she turned
1,000.
Yeah, whatever age it was, but
and Nadia is Muslim and wearing a hijab, and it was like her whole thing. That's season 2, right?
It was in the British version. It was in what America saw was season 2. In Britain, I think it was season 5.
Or actually, it's season. So the other thing you need to know about the Great British Baking Show is that there are 2 different like season counts because we've been getting it on like an off record. So you can like
I know exactly what you're talking about because I've watched 2 seasons of Love Island, so I'm very familiar with the off season count, the missing episodes and such.
Yeah. So we got it hit Netflix at the right time, and all of comedy lost its shit.
Yeah.
We all just stopped going to open mics. We were like, we don't need to see ass bat tonight. We're going to watch these old fucking people just bake. And the first season's great. Who was the first? What was her name? Linda? Is Linda the one who won the first one?
The first season, I don't remember who.
It's like it came down to like an architect and older housewife. Susan, Linda. It's like
I think it was. It was Richard the Builder.
Richard,
and
love Richard. I follow him on
because
Instagram.
Okay, so here's the thing that's the rub.
Whenever he gets his wife to scream that in passion.
These are all
Richard the Builder. Get it, Richard the Builder.
I know it definitely sounds like a Game of Thrones character.
So these are all amateur bakers. So these are people that are hobbyists.
Richard the Builder, first of his name.
They're hobbyist bakers. So these are people that have their lives and they bake on the side. And what they do is they basically stock it. And I remember having a conversation on Twitter with Guy Brandon about this because there are certain types, right? So there is always the old person that is really technically great but still makes things that are bland, right?
Yeah, because they can't help themselves.
There is always the somebody that's about 17 to 20, so the student who's like their nan or their mom or their dad taught them how to bake, and that's how they bond with their parents. There's always the sassy granny that was probably insane.
I love sassy
when she
granny.
was. There was always the person that is.
I'm gonna be a sassy granny when I grow up.
There's always the person that's of like a colonial background, like that always brings a lot of and is always distinguished by their flavor, which is kind of coded a little bit.
There's like a lot of
really
coded racism.
What's colonial background?
So
Well,
like
if they're like
Indian,
black or Indian or
African,
West Indian, something like that. They're from
not white.
From the
Exactly.
colonies.
Yeah, but they're the ones that came in with not the bland stuff, all the flavors that they have in Britain. So it's
that's when they start hitting you with the turmeric. Once they start busting
they're
out
big on the turmeric, yeah.
it's all over. They're like, oh, and then they colored it with turmeric.
But the thing about it is that it's basically a cross section of Britain. They go for the complete.
What about
cross.
weepy hot chick? There is
yes.
there is always like an emotionally fragile, good-looking woman, but she's like good-looking in a British way, so she looks like she's kind of a troglodyte, good-looking person. Like her eyes are always just a little too far apart, and her bangs are just a little too thin, and she's just like she's always.
That's my thing.
She gets like. So many guys are like, I want to fuck that crying girl. Like it is. She bakes cookies and she just cries.
Well, give her a reason to cry.
Dude, cookies and an accent? Get the fuck out of here. Your face could look like a toilet bowl. I'm all over.
But there was one. My favorite one was that there's always one that it's a very good looking woman. They always accuse of, she gets ahead because she flirts with Paul, which she's not.
And Paul Hollywood will flirt with anything.
Yeah, Paul
we got to talk about
his
the judges.
last name's Hollywood.
We got to talk about the judge. Okay, wait.
But hold on. The one that I remember was Ruby, right?
Yes.
Ruby was a very beautiful woman.
Insufferable.
She was a great baker. I liked her a lot. And
I couldn't hang.
And the thing that was great about Ruby was everybody in the tabloids and online were like, Ruby just get ahead because she flirts with Paul and she's good looking. And she was just like, I wasn't flirting with Paul. I'm a lesbian, Yeah. And she's just like, I am not sexually attracted to Paul Hollywood at all.
She was jumping down those blazer hosts necks.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, I think she said, if anything, I would be flirting with Sue.
Yes.
Tell us about the judges.
Okay, so you got the judge. You have Paul Hollywood. He is a spray tan with like beautiful, beautiful salt and pepper hair, just like beautiful, and he has like the gorgeous, gorgeous eyes, like the bluest fucking eyes. And he looks like everybody's like the hot dad. He looks like hot dad.
I think he looks like a refined Guy Fieri.
Yeah, he really does. He does.
Shakespearean Guy Fieri.
Does he have a
Really, Guy
Does
Fieri.
he have a monocle backwards around his neck?
No, but he will he does a
Guy
few
Fieri
things.
should be named Paul Hollywood, by the way. Those names are
Guy
I
Hollywood.
know, right?
Yeah.
His name is Paul fucking Hollywood. Apparently, he was like born with that name. I have no idea. But he also he does this thing where if he likes something, he'll just grow really quiet because all these British people want is validation. Because I've literally seen episodes where the families themselves are like, "Well, we didn't think John would win because he's never won anything before you won't win." Like they have no ability to be kind to each other in any way, and so they just want this man to validate them, and he'll get real quiet and he'll look despondent, he'll look sad, and he'll just be like, "I don't like it." I love it. And then they freak the fuck out. Or he gives a handshake. If he gives you a handshake, they cry. They cry.
Does confetti fall from the ceiling? Bah, bah, bah,
no, it's all happening in their little subdued British hearts. It's just, and it's shot on okay, and then there's Mary Berry. We got to talk about Mary Berry, then we got to talk about Prue. Okay, so Mary Berry is an old woman. She's an old woman. She's what Martha Stewart will become.
Yeah.
And she has a real crypt keeper, gaunt old lady face.
But she was basically, if Betty Crocker was a real person in Britain, Mary Berry was responsible for a revolution in home cooking.
Her dentures are always a threat of falling out.
She looks...
You're giving real facts, and I'm this bitch's
she
dentures.
looks like a villain from Harry Potter.
I was going to say, she looks exactly like one of my mom's friends. To a disturbing degree.
So she's like the Betty Crocker of Great Britain.
Yeah.
Her cookbooks are God, basically.
Yeah. And she would do these kind of tours, and she would give seminars and stuff like that. But Mary Berry is she has that kind of vibe where... She probably in her younger days was the coolest, partyinest. She probably threw down with Marianne Faithfull with the Stones.
She looks like she used to fuck a cocktail up.
Because she only likes traditional flavors. She has such an uptight
they have these coded references about her in the show where it's that like is a partier, and I think that like the things about if there's too much liquor flavor in it, it's like, oh, I bet Mary would really love this, you know?
Yeah, she looks like a lush.
The two of them, they would have their master class as well. There's another show, like a companion show that you can watch along with the show that shows you how to bake what their challenges were that week.
Cool.
And Mary Berry and Paul Holly would actually bake them, so you know that they can do the thing,
right?
And they can do it. I don't think they do it within the time period because they always give them a challenge with just it feels like 10 minutes too little every time.
Yeah.
And so they are like. They do the challenge, but those two on that show, the sexual chemistry, you can cut it with a fucking knife. Like they are just like, and he's always like, well, I was at your house the other day. He always just like comes over and is like talking to her and shit. I'm like, those two must have been getting it.
And so this is the show, and then there's
sassy bomber jackets. She's always wearing a sassy bomber.
So there's
like a silk bomber
Sue,
jacket.
I forget their last names, but Sue and Mel, who were comics in Britain.
They both wear blazers. They're both clearly gay as Good Friday.
And they've been replaced in the more recent one with Noel Fielding from Mighty Boosh. And the guy with the long hair from the Mighty Boosh.
Which I just paused it to roast him for 20 minutes. I was just like, look at this Hot Topic vampire on our fucking favorite show.
See, I kind of...
he looks like he's torso from the knees to his neck.
I would wear some of that stuff he wears, and I gladly would wear it.
Those really long, weird shirts.
Oh, man. Some of those prints...
He looks like he's wearing a nightshirt outside. Like he's wearing an old-timey nightshirt. Like he just threw the hat he's supposed to doff to one side out and was like, it's daywear now.
But so they replaced Mary because it switched stations. They replaced her with Prue Leach, who is also like the other heavyweight of basically home cooking.
I kind of love her.
Yeah, she's from.
I want to be her.
She's kind of the. She's like the dean of the major culinary school in Britain.
She wears like nothing but color block clothes and like chunky old lady jewelry, and she's all about new flavors. She's like lychee, let's do it. Whereas Mary Berry'd be like, if you come near me with that fucking matcha, I will spit in your eye. Like, she would get every time they'd be like, I'm gonna make a matcha flavored bread. I'd be yelling, no, they hate it. They hate it every time. Why are you doing that?
Prue buys all of her clothes at Chico's, and she is proud of it.
She looks
Lane Bryant.
I mean, she looks like the most fabulous elementary school librarian.
Yes, yes. I love her.
And it's all shot in a tent.
That's what I was going to say. My whole exposure to this show, by the way, because you were saying there's this like...
She's Miss
It's like ASMR, but like it's
but
like
a show.
A show.
When it came out on Netflix, you mentioned like LA comedy just shut down.
We just yelled about it.
And in my humble home, my roommates, former guests of the show, Monica Scott and Emily Faye, camped downstairs and were watching that show for about 2 weeks straight. So I would just come downstairs to like get a glass of water, and then it would just be on, and then now I'm just watching it. So I got hooked in immediately.
How many times did you cry? Because I have wept.
I don't
Granted,
know
I watched that during tumor time, so it would be like I'd watch that show and then I'd go on stage, make someone assault me, and then I would come home and then just cry more.
Every time I watched it, it was, we were just kind of roasting it. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like a deep. Well, at least not for me. When I was checking it out, it wasn't like a deep watch. We were more just like, oh my god, look at her fucking clothes or whatever.
Oh yeah, because Great Britain. Okay, so we got to talk about this because we're both tour guides.
Yes.
We can say this. People from the UK are like fashion-wise 10, 15 years behind LA.
Oh, it's the best. Yeah.
It's pretty great.
I think it's very bimodal in a way where it's like you either have the most debonair, fashionable people, or you have people that are like 10 or 15. You basically have Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like they were like the host ladies, they were still wearing like low rise like jeans. The lowest of the low rise, but like just below their hips. It was like
and the eyebrows.
And,
the eyebrows that everybody has. Like,
there's one eyebrow in Britain and they're just sharing it.
Yeah.
It's a bad eyebrow too.
What you were mentioning was the first thing that initially caught my eye, and I was like, this is why this show is just like inherently strange, is because it's in a kitchen that is underneath a tent in the front lawn of Downton Abbey for some reason.
It has no climate control either.
Yeah,
They're
so
all
it'll be-
going to die at one point during the season. They're in hot
Britain is-
ovens in a hot tent.
Yeah, hot ovens in a hot tent, but no walls on the side. And then every time they interview them, they're just standing in the rain because Britain is fucking cold and rainy all the time. So people are just standing outside, having been sweating over an oven, and now they're outside. I'm just like, every one of these people is going to get pneumonia.
Well, when
And they're
they shoot-
crying.
well, when they
Yeah.
shoot- but when they shoot it in the summertime, sometimes it's like 105
Oh, it's
degrees
brutal.
outside.
And they're
Yeah.
like, temper chocolate, build a sculpture,
don't-
build Big Ben out of chocolate.
Yeah, do meringues, and it's like the meringues are
It's
just,
just like, ugh, like everything.
We need a marzipan Piccadilly now.
That is, by the way, correct.
But everybody is an amateur baker, and
Yeah.
that's what they do on the side. So you have these sort of adorable things where they show what people do in their real lives. You know, this
Yeah.
person is. There's usually one person that's like a civil servant, and then they go and they bake with their kids, and it's like adorable.
Yeah.
The one
Always
that
an
I-
engineer.
Yeah, there's always an engineer.
Yeah, always an engineer.
The one that I love is
This is Pansy. She's a woman of the night.
there's
I would love that.
She's a hooker and a baker.
I'm just trying to get off these streets. I don't even have a British accent. I've just been here. I've been here for like, I don't know, forever, but I'm just trying to get off these streets. I like wearing the apron because it feels covered up. It's like my pimp's arm around my shoulder. I feel safe.
But there's Richard, and the one that I always remembered is Richard was a contractor.
Yeah.
Like he was a construction contractor, and he always signified by the fact that he had a pencil behind his ear. He always had that
Yeah.
pencil behind his
Yeah.
ear, and they do the thing where they say, "Oh, Richard really enjoys baking," and one of his favorite things is to take his creations to the build site, and they have two of the most stereotypical British construction workers. They both look like the wrestler Giant Haystacks. They're like 600 pounds, and they're just eating.
I want another biscuit.
No, and it's just like Richard giving him biscuits, and one of them just like, "Hey, Richard, these biscuits are divine." And it's like it's amazing. It just makes Britain seem just uniformly
so gay.
like the most magical fairyland of all time. Like this is something straight out of a fairy tale. And the thing about it also is that it's a different type of competition show because everybody on the show wants everybody else to win.
They have teamwork. I posted, this last season, I was taking pictures. I was like live feeding to my Instagram pictures of them helping each other. Like they kept helping each other. Like at one point, 4 other bakers who had just finished the end of the wire were like, "Oh, let us help you." They were like dressing each other's.
Yeah.
Maybe
Never
that's
in
why
America.
you've never won anything.
Well, no, but
Steve?
it also shows what you could do as a society when you eliminate the profit motive. You know what I mean?
Exactly,
It's like
exactly.
we're playing for a plate and not $1 million. So there is nobody who comes into. Although I would gladly, if anybody, I know we have some British listeners, if you could put a bug in the ear of the BBC, I will totally come on and be the bullshit American ringer who just gets on like, "Hey man, I didn't come here to make friends. I came here to make cakes, motherfucker."
Well, no, but you would get slaughtered in the first week because some of the stuff that they have them make is super
Lunacy.
Oh, yeah.
where it's just
Yeah.
people that are just like, "Oh, I love making Victoria sponge. I made 4 of these last week."
Yeah.
You know, and it's just
Oh,
like,
well, I've said this before about like, because most people listen to the show know I love to cook, but baking is so much closer to science
It's chemistry
than anything else. So like that's my weak spot. Like deep fried shit, I got you. Barbecue, I got you. Various
Right.
stews and seafood things, sure. Baking, I like trying to bake, but it is so far beyond me. It's such a very hard skill.
It really is. Well, and the other crazy thing that I realized this last season is that they're baking in convection ovens, which is a completely different animal.
Yeah,
and they're clearly practicing in conventional ovens.
Yeah.
So they're always a little thrown off. And if I were like, listen, this is the thing I'm a contender to do, fucking go on Amazon and get a fucking countertop convection oven and practice
to win
in a
a
goddamn...
plate? To win a plate, convection ovens are thousands of dollars. I'm going to spend thousands of dollars so I can get a plate.
Do you know how much they spend on RuPaul's Drag Race like outfits?
Yeah.
Those ladies go and they get their
Yeah,
fucking,
but
they get bank loans.
They can turn that into a career.
no, but
Some
the
of they
baking
do,
show
they
people,
do.
yeah.
They made
Most
a cake
of
for
them
the
do.
queen.
Louis was a second runner-up in the first season, and he has his own bakery now. And I follow him on Instagram, and he's a delight. Ruby, I don't know what she does, but I assume she just travels. She just has like a hot chick style blog apparently now.
Yeah.
And then Nadia, which was the third one on Netflix, she is killing it in the game.
Yeah. And like I know that I believe Chetna has her own bakery too. I mean, they all
go on to
become
fame,
basically like a star. Even if you're somebody that finishes middle of the road, you will end up being able to create some sort of thing where you're going to have to, you can feel free to quit your job and either be a personality or create a bakery or be somebody that, bakes for the highest echelons of British society. Like you basically become, I mean, the way in which they set it up on the show is that there's obviously a group of people, so it's 15 people typically.
There's always some that are really good and some that are, oh yeah, we forgot, loud. There's always a poorly dressed, middle-aged, very divorced dad energy guy who sucks. There's always like one divorced dad energy guy who just fucking, like a guy who clearly lives on a boat. Like he sucks.
Yeah, he kills people. He's like, oh, my other job, serial killer.
He's like, I
love sailing. I specialized in it at Eton. You know?
Yeah.
I like walking the streets of Whitechapel and cutting up hookers.
And then when he presents, it's always like there was, especially this last one on Netflix, there was
he's
a guy,
an extremely divorced dad.
Divorced dad with like just wearing a shirt that like if colors could scream, like
it's a Rush t-shirt.
It's just Murder Nightmare t-shirt, and he's just like
with French cuffs.
and then he would present. They'd be like, "Well, I didn't use any. I used one egg and no fat, and it didn't work." Oh.
Yeah. And he
made it like 3 rounds. I was like, somebody shoot that man.
I know. It's like he walks up. I love those guys because they walk up with a sense of entitlement, and Paul and Mary / Prue smack them down so hard.
Yeah,
and
it's awful.
It's just like they get their souls ripped out, like Shang Tsung from Mortal Kombat.
And how Paul Hollywood does it is he literally will take something that somebody's baked, a beautiful thing, and then he'll tear it open with his hands and just start pawing at it. Just like, oh, like that guy putting a bat in his butt. Just like, oh, just like going for it. And like, you're just like, wow, there's nothing delicate about this.
Yeah. And then my favorite is that he takes a bite of it, he throws it
down.
And he's just like, it's raw. I'm not eating this. You know?
Yeah, it's really, and then Prue will just be like, well, it does have a nice flavor. Yeah. And then that's it. You're just like, oh God, the humanity.
Oh yeah, there's usually they open it up. The first 4 that get eliminated are personalities. I like to call them personalities, where it's like you'll remember this person.
They are the red shirts of the Great.
They're the William Hung of baking.
Yeah. There was one guy that like basically was an even nerdier version of Weird Al Yankovic named Jordan, who was a computer programmer.
Jordan.
He made quite possibly the ugliest piece of food I've ever seen in my entire life. He was like making a cake, and it just looked like, I can't describe it, but it looked...
the craziest teeth, by the way.
It was like,
his teeth were a problem.
And he walked into this, he was like a jobber on WCW Saturday Night, and he's just like, well, I know I'm going to lose this, but I'm just happy to be here.
So stupid.
But you remember them, and at the last episode, they bring everybody back for a big garden party, and it's just like, oh, it's Jordan again. Holy shit.
Oh my God, where have you been?
You were real.
Yeah. The other thing I loved, go ahead.
And then there's always 3 or 4 ringers.
Yeah.
Right. And 2 of them generally make it to the end, and then there's one dark horse that comes in.
And Nadia was a dark horse.
Absolutely nowhere. So Nadia was a dark horse. She was kind of middling, and then she just hit it into hyperspeed later on. But I mean, in the last season, there was Steven, who was so adorable. So like cute. He was probably the most precious, like just really, he's like an insecure type guy.
Yeah.
That like they went to his, and he's just, that baking was his place that he could be himself.
Yeah.
In this cruel, cruel world. And he would just listen to like Pet Shop Boys on his iPhone and
he
do
was
his
baking from inside a closet like this guy. By the way, like they never talked about it because they were like weird about like they would just introduce there's a lot of LGBTQ people on the show, and they would never make a big deal about it.
Right.
But that guy, Steven particularly, I was just like, come out.
Well, no. I mean, it was the thing with a guy, because Guy Brandon talks a lot about it, and he was just like, the thing that he made some tweet about, the thing that helps me make my way through this change in the staff is that there's 3 gay men on the show.
So gay.
Yeah, and people were like, which people were it? And he named all 3 of them.
Yeah.
And 2 of them were like Guy's gaydar is on point because he...
The 19-year-old, right?
There was Liam. Yeah, and then there was Steven, and then there was the fella that's like the rugby player.
Yeah, cute. Yeah, but when they don't show him playing rugby, it was so cute because they hoist him up over their heads, and he's just like...
He's the Rudy of rugby.
No, but he was like a guy that looked like he could whoop your ass.
Scheme.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he would kill it in West Hollywood. Like he was doing good. But nice legs on that man.
And then Jan too, and they kind of drop it a little bit later. Like the one of the things that I always remembered was John in one of the episodes. There was a guy named John who was in law school, and the first episode he was very reserved.
Yes,
he was very reserved, and I think it was
nose ring, right?
Yeah, and then they were just like the second episode he got the nose ring in because he found out, he was just like, all right, how much can I let be myself? So the second episode, you see the nose ring.
Yeah.
The third episode, he looks like a backup dancer from the Truth or Dare Madonna tour.
It's amazing.
Just like rosaries and like a shirt with a tank top underneath and the tightest jeans, and it's just like, this guy is awesome.
And he's his progression through that season was like, the more flamboyant he got, the worse his bakes were. But then he like buttoned it down, took that nose ring out, fucking won the whole thing.
Yeah,
that's like spoiler alert. Like this guy fucking, and that was the episode where
he cut himself at one point by accident, and he saw his own blood, and he was just like, he just hulked up and became like it all. When it came crashing down and it hurt inside, he like rose to the occasion.
Well, but the other thing he did too is he didn't like wrap his finger. Okay, the cuts. We got to talk about the cuts.
That's kind of creepy.
The second season on Netflix with the Ruby season. In the first episode, so there's 12 bakers, right? Yeah. Inside of this tent, and 7 of them cut their fingers. Some of them on both hands, and I was like, like I couldn't stop laughing because I'm a bad person, but they were just like all so nervous. They were just like, like it was the funniest thing I've ever seen. I was like, you guys gotta calm down.
What were they making? Do you remember?
It usually starts out with cakes. I think cakes is always the first.
They were doing a fruit cake.
Yeah.
They were doing
they
a
were
cake
chopping
where
fruit.
they were chopping fruit.
Oh, okay. I was like, how are you cutting yourself making bacon?
Every time, and it's usually like on rhubarb, which, by the way, listen, if you're listening to this and you're in the UK and you just don't put rhubarb ruins almost every bake it touches on the Great British Baking Show. They're always like, oh, I'm going to do rhubarb. I'm like, what is there? Is rhubarb heroin? Like, why can't
it's
they
like
put
that,
rhubarb down?
Matcha ruins everything.
Matcha. Rhubarb.
Not using dried fruit and using fresh fruit.
Apples can be a real
kill
problem.
People.
Apples just soak up
peanut butter because British people, apparently peanut butter's made its way to Britain finally, and they don't talk about it as the gross thing that Americans eat.
Into it,
but they don't understand peanut butter, so that they just like massive fails when it comes to peanut butter. As an American, I feel very
but those molten
satisfied.
Peanut butter cakes, though.
Oh.
They
jacked it up though. They messed up the peanut butter on a lot of them.
A lot of them did, but like one of them, I liked her because she was like. Are
they trying to make their own peanut butter?
No, but if they did, holy shit, that would change the game.
Yeah, well, it was the thing I noticed because I remember like
cookie butter's better anyway.
It'll take 10 years, but when cookie butter hits England, watch out. But no, they. I remember probably 10, 15 years ago, my parents are friends with a couple.
Mary Berry.
Couple of people from Germany, and whenever they would come to Alabama or we would visit them, the number one thing that they would load up on or ask, we'd like, oh, we're coming to Germany, do you want anything from America? It was always like Reese's shit, like nutrageous peanut butter cups, Reese's Pieces, like chocolate peanut butter, everything, because that just was not a thing. And then I was in Ireland last year, and you're right, it's like peanut butter's hit there, and it's like this, they
have Reese's in Europe though, like.
No, but I'm saying it was always been like available, but it's much like sriracha here. Like they've always had sriracha on the store shelves, but it wasn't until like 5-6 years ago when chefs started putting it in everything, and now it's
bacon.
Like bacon's always been around, but it wasn't like a featured prominently sort of thing. They've always had Reese's, like I guess peanut butter cups that you could buy at specifically like American stores, or whatever.
I mean, I was in Italy a couple times, and when we would stop at like a gas station on the tour bus, like their gas stations would have the same setup ours did, where it was just like every candy you know of and the gas station.
But
like,
they would have Reese's
peanut butter cups and mini peanut butter cups and pieces.
Wow. Okay. I was just aware of. I just noticed it because I remember that was always a thing. At least in Germany, they would always load up on all the specialty Reese's stuff.
But the peanut butter's gone out of the Reese Pieces, and then it's now like
it's now in cakes and stuff.
Now in cakes and in the jar, like straight out the jar.
Right.
Yuzu was a big feature.
Yuzu was a big thing. Yeah. So
season.
Is that why we have that at Trader Joe's? Every couple of days, some housewife will be like, "Where's the yuzu?" And I'm like, "I don't even know what the fuck you're
crew
talking
member
about."
At Trader Joe's, I worked at Trader Joe's for like 5 seconds, but my back is shitty, so I was like, "I can't do this anymore."
I mean, I have a pinched sciatica at the moment that I'm like on a lot of pills for, so it's not fun.
By the way, like treat your Trader Joe's employees with or your local Trader Joe's people with like a lot of love, because they're literally like pro wrestling pallets of shit in the back like all day. Like they're just it's like doing jujitsu with like fucking vegetables.
Especially if they used to be on the Cosby Show.
Oh yeah.
That shit was so shitty because like I've never been on the Cosby Show and I work at Trader Joe's. Where's my goddamn leave him alone article? Why is nobody being nice to me and giving me part? Tyler Perry, I've never once been on the Cosby Show. I don't even have a fortune to have lost. Put me on your fucking TV show so I can have a goddamn credit and start doing clubs and don't have to live in LA anymore.
Oh, jeez.
My favorite part of the Great British Baking Show are the points in between the individual segments where they put the adorable animals. So it's just like, it's just...
What?
We've had this challenge. Let's reset with some baby ducklings.
Yeah, the squirrels.
Yeah,
it's really cute because all of a sudden there will be like just like a cute little sheep, and he's like, meh, and then you're like, oh, how cute, and then you just forget about like all these people's self-worth just getting thrown on the floor.
When I see something like that, my mind immediately just drifts to the camera guys of like the high stress camera work of having to be the people in the tent kitchen filming all these people, and then the lucky son of a bitch who gets to go shoot B-roll around the farm and just like film ducks and sheeps and stuff.
I'm just the assistant director.
Like the crew's having a good time. Like everybody seems to be like really stoked, especially because you can tell when they come back to do the garden party. The people are like, I think in the last season, this one guy was like, I thought I was going to be really sad coming back, but actually I'm very happy. And I feel like
they probably get fed really well.
Oh, yeah.
Of course they get fed really well. No, I'm just talking about the camera guys probably have to fight over that role. Like, oh, do you want to be in this sweaty tent filming people baking, or would you like to take a leisurely stroll around the Lake District and film
I mean, I bet that's what I mean. The trade-off probably is they get the shit like right out the oven. It's like, here's a cake. Sorry, you have to be sweaty. And the guys who are like going around to come back, and it's like, you can have the rest of the half-eaten cakes.
Oh, no. All that food gets very cold. I can say, having made brief appearances on a Food Network show, the food has to be ice cold before anybody is allowed to fucking eat it, pretty much.
Oh no!
Because you just sit there and it just you can't eat that shit until it's like, okay, are we?
What Food Network show were you on?
I was on season 2 of Food Factor Fiction.
Whoa!
But every time we film something, it would literally have to be like, okay, are we 100% done with these buffalo wings? Do we have every single shot we need? And this would be 3 hours after they got there. It's like, okay, cool, and now you can eat them.
Well, I'll eat a cold buffalo.
No, hell yeah, no, I ain't complaining, but I'm just letting you know that those camera guys everybody's eating cold.
But it's weird in Britain because they aren't cooking with gloves or hairnets either, so I think they're a little bit lax with that sort of thing. What's your favorite things that were ever created on that show?
Oh, great question. I did like that molten peanut butter cake because I liked the time challenge, the like staggering of that. I thought that was really fun. I'm obsessed with.
What was the molten peanut butter cake?
It's like it's basically like a volcano cake, like a chocolate volcano cake,
like
but instead there's just peanut butter in the inside.
And the thing is that this is what they call the technical challenge, where they have them make something that they have no idea how to make
with minimal instructions.
With minimal instructions in a finite amount of time, and a lot of times people just screw it up.
Well, yeah.
There's always one thing that they just screw up on, and it's
just sad.
I don't know how you would go about making peanut butter hot and thin enough to run out of the top of a cake like a volcano cake, right?
Well, it's sort of it wasn't the same. It was like they had to, because it was a puddings episode.
Okay.
Because they've done all the rough puff pastry they could, which by the way I became obsessed with because I'm a gluten-free person. This is just torture for me, by the way, to watch these shows.
Oh my God.
Because I can't like eat any of that.
Do
shit.
you remember Brendan from the older guy?
Yes.
He has colitis, so he can't eat a lot of the stuff that he bakes. He gives it to his friends.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh,
I liked him too.
Behind
He
the
was like a
scenes
little
colitis.
He was like a little robot. There was occasionally too, there were a couple of bakers. I think like on the 4th season, there was one gal who her signature cake in the first episode was a gluten-free cake.
Yeah,
and they were like, because they're always, their reaction to it is always like, they're doing a gluten-free cake. Like you could tell, like
they're just pissed.
Like Paul Hollywood's just like, fuck. Like it's
the ghost of the two fat ladies is just hovering above them.
So mad,
So
just like
mad.
there could be more butter. Like it's so like they're so mad. And actually, she won that challenge. It was I think that was like a number one, easily a top one. I like any of the rough puff pastry because the process of it seems fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Just the like, you have to fold it like a samurai sword. You get to eat.
Yeah.
I'm into it.
Oh my God.
But yeah, it was. I think those were probably my top.
So you're not a big fan of the Bread Lion?
Oh, Bread Lion was okay. Bread Lion's good.
What is Bread Lion?
Oh, dude, Bread Lion.
Bread Purse, though. Did we talk about Bread Purse?
Bread Purse was something else because Steven made the bread. He made
Bread Lion.
No. There was the guy that was the divorced dad. That was like his. He basically did nothing on the show except he managed to make the greatest thing in the history of the show. Because there's always that one person that is not very good, and then they manage on one day where they just are like.
That's why they're here.
Like, this is the greatest. There was one guy named Ryan where, not to ruin it for anybody, there was one guy named Ryan who was just middling, and then he managed to make, and he was like screwing up left and right during this challenge. He managed to make this key lime pie that Mary Berry said was the greatest pie that she had ever eaten.
Oh, but wait, can we talk about, but that episode, they were supposed to be making American pies, and that was a fucking tart. That was a tart. I'm drooling thinking about it, by the way. I'm so mad. That was a tart. That was not a pie. All of the American pies on the American Pie episode were fucking tarts.
Yeah,
I was
they're
so
peanut
mad.
butter pies and things like that.
There was one person who made a sweet potato pie,
Yeah.
and I was like, and he basically said, it was so cute. He goes, so I just got on YouTube and I watched all these traditional American bakers, which was code for like old black ladies.
Yeah, of course.
Just like going for it. But
wait, so when you say like a tart, because a lot of times like McDonald's, their version of a pie, when you get the apple pie at McDonald's, that's a tart, right? Like
that's more of like a turnover, right?
Yeah.
But
Okay, gotcha.
So basically,
Rivers.
Sorry.
For me, it came down to like
everybody fucking knows that. Duh.
I don't know anything. I can't even eat it.
That's a turnover. You're a tart.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I need to hug you. How you doing?
But so there was a guy named there was this guy, I think his name was Paul, and he looked kind of like Paul Hollywood too.
Yes.
So it was like a weird doppelganger situation.
There's only 4 names in England,
but that's true.
They were like fighting.
But he kind of looked like Paul.
You're either
too.
John, Paul, George, or Ringo.
Like he had
So many
his own
Ringos.
spray tan.
Yes.
He had his own
We're lousy with
French
Ringos.
cuff shirts.
Yes.
He had his
Up
own
to our
sort of
ears in
vibe.
Ringos.
And he managed to make, so they had to make a bread sculpture. A sculpture
they
out of
always
bread.
have to do a bread
with
sculpture.
3 different types of bread.
And it has to be natural colors usually, and like all kinds of crazy
And he's
shit.
just like, he, in this episode, has screwed up everything to an epic scale. Like, this guy is on the chopping block. It's fait accompli that he is gone this
I
week.
thought you were going to say this guy is on the spectrum.
well, like most of them are.
But this guy... and you just look at him, and he looks like he reeks of whiskey and smokes just 3 packs a day, and he's just like, I gotta make 3. And he decides to make this bread lion, and they have to make 3 different types of bread in a sculpture, and it is the Paul Hollywood just looks at it and his eyes get like the size of saucers, and he's like, "This is the greatest thing I've ever seen, mate." And he nails it. It's
nailed it, yeah.
It's perfect. Like you look at it and the whole thing is bread.
Bread lion. Did you just Google?
Yeah.
Jesus
the
Christ!
bread lion.
What the fuck? That's horrifying looking.
Yeah, it's a bread lion.
What kind of breads did he use?
We'll put this up on our Twitter. We're at the Goods Pod.
I think he made like a focaccia.
Yeah.
I think he made a rye bread, and I think he made something else.
And the focaccia requires a long, rising period.
Yeah, y'all kept saying bread lion, and I was thinking this was a recipe I just wasn't familiar with. It's literally
a bread lion.
I feel like you should have used cinnamon raisin bran, right?
Oh, you're right.
For the main, at least.
Okay, I dig that.
The eyes are olives that are baked in, like everything.
It's a savory bread, yeah.
Like he managed to hit everything perfect. Like this guy, this was like he was down. It was like almost like the thing with just the one punch. Like it was like the 15th round, and he's behind on all the scorecards, and he managed to like
the Kimbo
throw the
slice
punch.
of baking.
Yeah, that happens.
Knocks the person out at the last minute.
That happens quite a bit. There's also like the bread episodes are always where like you can tell. In fact, this last season was probably one of the only seasons where somebody who's not good at bread won.
Because that was Sophie.
Sophie.
Right? Yeah, Sophie,
the
badass.
stunt woman, the black belt, the
ballet dancer,
and veteran. Her level of focus was insane, and she was really good with like lemony yuzu. She fucked with that yuzu really, really hard. She was really, really good.
And then it was always funny that she was super focused, and then there was Liam, who was he was 19 years old, and he was basically a puppy.
He was so. I felt like he got eliminated a week too early.
I think so too.
Yeah,
I
was mad.
think he got the raw deal.
I would watch a puppy break.
Well, that's like what Liam was. He was just like, "Yeah, my man, I'm trying, and whatever they say, I don't care." And he would do these weird, like, kind of things that were so, like Paul would
he
look
had
at
brownies in an episode. He had the audacity to do brownies.
Wow.
I've
on the
often
Great
thought
British
it would be
Baking Show.
hilarious if a person on one of these cooking like competitions just made like Kraft macaroni and cheese.
Right.
And then like when they didn't win was just visibly crushed.
It would be funny if somebody is just like, yes, this is my grandfather's recipe. His name was Duncan Hines. And it's just a guy just stirring the Duncan Hines powder in a bowl and pouring it in to make brownies.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, he made like a white chocolate brownie with like, it was for a trifle, right? It was the trifle cake.
And Paul, and every time it would just be Paul like, "What are you doing? Like, what are you?" And then he just manages to like just destroy it, basically. Like he just does something that's completely out of left field. That it's almost like a thing where when you were in college, whether or not you were chemically altered, it's beside the point. But it's like you have this idea where you're like, "What if we make pizza, but the crust is a waffle? How awesome is that?"
That
and then
would
you
be
make
awesome.
it, and it's great.
A dessert pizza with a waffle
and
crust.
then he comes in with that perspective, and Paul's just like, "What is going on? This is lunacy."
Yeah.
And then Liam, who kind of has like Mr. Peanut Butter vibes, like from BoJack Horseman.
Oh my God! Why are we not talking about BoJack Horseman? Hit stop! We got okay. Sorry, I'm really.
He's just like carefree. Just doesn't and just super happy all the time. Like everybody's like Steven's about to have just a manic breakdown because he's just
there was a couple of times where Steven was just on the floor of the tent, just like sitting.
And Liam's like, "Hey, who's having a good time, everybody?"
Whatever. What would he always say? He would always say, "Was it like massive or sick?"
Yeah,
or
he would
something?
be like, he'd always say like massive and sick and so like he was the most
epic. It was epic.
He was like if YouTube was a person. Like, he was like just didn't.
I gotta
really
say,
loved him.
I worked at a pizza place, and it often, when it's slow, it does turn into, "Hey, what if we did this and this?" And the best one that I can't remember if it was me or my buddy Johnny Mose, but one of us came up with I think it was Johnny Mose, but I definitely ate it a bunch of times. This pizza place I worked at, we had hummus that we sold just as separately, and we'd sell pita chips. We made a pizza that instead of sauce, it was a hummus base with like fresh mozzarella.
Somewhere my boyfriend
tomatoes.
is rock fucking hard.
It was-
He doesn't know why. He's just like, oh God.
But yeah, it was like tomato.
This sounds very good.
And sausage.
That's about as excited as Stuart would get.
Well, I do enjoy hummus. I would love to just smear it all over a pizza.
We did it. It was everything you think it is and more. And we used the fresh mozzarella too, not the bullshit
Wow,
stuff.
that sounds tasty.
We used the fresh mozz.
But
oh man,
yeah, my favorites of all time. Nadia's awesome. Chetna's awesome. Liam's one of my favorites. Steven, I always liked Steven. I always felt for him. Frances.
Yes.
Frances, oh my God. Like, she was an artist that would make pieces of art with baked goods. She was insane. Like, she was oh my God, she was the best. Like, everyone on that show, you will not, even a person like, there are some people where you're just like, this person slightly annoys me, but then you're just like, I don't want to see them go.
You're so
want to see
sad
everybody
when they go.
Yeah, it's one of those sorts of things like that. Like, even like, you know, Stacy would kind of have her passive aggressive like faces of why can't I be Star Baker and stuff like that.
Stacy was crazy.
Yeah,
she was. She annoyed me because she is a reflection of me. Because she is so fucking competitive and she's got so much to prove. And I was like, oh man, that's just me. My first 2 years of comedy, just like what? I deserve to be here.
Yeah. But even you get annoyed by her, but then you're just like, she got eliminated, and you feel for her. You feel for everybody that gets eliminated, and that's the thing that's cool about it. Yeah, the hard one for me was there's a lot of hard ones on that show, but I felt really bad for Liam when he got eliminated because he was all like carefree. Not spoiler alert, everybody, but like. He's carefree. Then at the time, that's like, this is the point where he cracks and he's crying and you're just like, oh man.
He was definitely, you're right. Mr. Peanut Butter is the right description of him. And by the way, if you guys want me to come back on and yell about BoJack Horseman, I literally watched it all in one day. I was like, I have to leave now. But yes, he cried, he wept, he was so, and he had to like take a second. He was like, hold on. And I was like, oh, Liam, so sweet with his grandma's recipes. Anytime any baker says, this is my family recipe, they win.
Yeah.
Almost every time. Because it's like a tried and true recipe. It just fucking works.
Or especially if it's a person of color. Like, I've always noticed on there, if it's somebody that's not British, like of British descent, like, you know, British Isles descent, they always come in, oh, this is my nan's recipe, or this is my grandmother's recipe, my grandma, and they always kill it. They always kill it extra hard.
Hard. Even if they're from like Scotland, occasionally you'll get somebody from Scotland and
this is my aunt's recipe. My aunt's name is Betty Crocker.
Norm, who's just like, this is my cracker recipe, and that's my nan's, and he's like 187 years old. So this thing like
I'm making sprinkle cake, and you can't stop me.
I mean, these are. He's so old that probably William Wallace enjoyed eating his grandmother's food.
Yeah,
so.
Pretty great. There was also to swing back around to the sweet potato pie.
Oh yeah,
when they bring in flavors that are very American or very Asian.
Yeah,
the look on the judge's face was like when a baby hears a new sound. Like it was just like. Like they didn't 100% like it, which broke my heart. Because I was like, sweet potato pie is the most delicious thing. How dare you?
Sure. Right.
It's amazing. But
well, that's like me with the anytime, because Oreo has gotten complacent, I think, and I think there's got to be a new guy at the Oreo company who's just like, he's like, well, my dad did it one way and I am not my father, I am not Mr. Oreo, I'm Ken and you call me Ken. But they're doing all these like weird flavors and shit, and they have this summer they came out with one, Kyle Clark had it at his barbecue. It was cherry cola flavored Oreos.
Those are disgusting.
Was it good?
No, they are awful. So, it tastes like horrible, awful licorice.
The only Oreos I've had in the last 10 years have been JoJo's.
Those are
the gluten-free ones.
So what you were saying, though,
they're better than the regular ones.
I sat there and I ate basically half a sleeve, just being like, is this good? I was like, I kept eating them because they were so goddamn weird.
I will eat the shit out of things. Like, I ate like,
Yeah, where you're just like, is this good? What the fuck
the
is
answer
this?
is no.
Well, no, and the weird little twist is that in the icing they have Pop Rocks. So when you eat it, it's supposed to be cola flavored, so it like fizzles in your mouth.
Do you remember the Ben and Jerry's flavor that had Pop Rocks in it? Was that just me? It was called Kaboom. It was so good.
It was called Choking Hazard.
It was. I remember it because I would get really. This was back before I got clean and sober. I would smoke a bowl. I would walk to the gas station. I'd buy a pint of Kaboom, and then I would just eat it and be confused. It made me so excited.
I feel like this is the golden age of stoner foods because now that weed, I don't know if you've noticed this, but old Joe did the math on it and realized the second weed became illegal, the second weed became recreationally legal in California, the cereal aisle and the candy aisle went absolutely batshit insane. Like overnight, it's like weed's now legal, and then like almost literally the next day, Lucky Charms had the Frosted Flakes instead of the regular cardboard whatever shit they put in there. It was Frosted Flakes plus the marshmallows, and then like every cereal had like crossovers and shit where it would mix the two flavors in one bag, which we all do anyway. It's fucking great.
You're down to this much Honey Nut Cheerios. Dump it in the Frosted
or
Flakes.
you're just stoned and you're just like, I wonder what Apple Jacks would taste like with Honey Nut Cheerios. Like why not?
I still don't know if Apple Jacks are good. I have no idea.
I mean, it's
I've eaten several boxes of Apple Jacks, being like, "Is this good?"
You gotta be in the mood for it. But like,
of food
really
is this good?
But like the cookies have gone crazy. The chips have gone crazy.
And soda.
The
soda's gone crazy too.
I mean, everything since the weed's legal. I mean, it's a golden age for weed food.
Absolutely.
Well, let me tell you something. The show for you is the Great British Bake
Off.
You gotta
and
get
the competitor for you, Liam.
Yeah, because he is definitely. He does look like he just ate an edible and he just walked in. He's like, "Whoa, I'm on TV."
Anna, where can people find you on the internet?
Oh my gosh, you can find me at Anna V is Fun on Twitter and Instagram. You can also find me at AnnaValenzuela.com for show dates and stuff. And lastly, you can hear me on my other two podcasts.
Yes.
12 Questions podcast on the Unpops Network and the Brouhaha podcast on the Unpops Network. We also just like talk about things.
Yeah, I highly recommend, because I saw it live. You guys did a Don Francisco episode, which was awesome. So you can hear me cackling in the background of that live ep that you did at the Hollywood Hotel. And
we just cut together a sizzle reel of that, and I did hear you in the background, and I was like, yay!
That's me.
And it features Vanessa Gritton, who is also a
past guest of the show.
Past guest of the show.
Cindy Aravina is on there as well. But yeah, absolutely check out Brouhaha. Absolutely check out 12 Questions and Anna on season 2 of Roast Battle.
Season 2 of Roast Battle, quarterfinalist, got beaten by the champ.
Hey, no shame in that.
You know what? I wish we were competing for a plate and not money. I feel like we all would have been better friends at the end of it.
You can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/thegoodspod. We're on Twitter @thegoodspod. Every episode ever, youtube.com/thegoodspod. Wow. And by the time this episode comes out, big announcement. ProWrestlingTees.com/thegoodspod. We got us through some major negotiations. We're on ProWrestlingTees.com now.
Woo! I wish I had talked more about wrestling in this episode.
Hey, you know what? I was thinking, where what are we going to go with? T Public, T Spring, whatever it is? Nah, hell no. ProWrestlingTees.com/thegoodspod. And check that out. Get a shirt. Pat, what do the folks do when they get to iTunes and Google Play?
Listen here. They have to rate, review, and subscribe. Tell a friend, because it shows the attitude, of gratitude.
And if you don't have the attitude of gratitude, Daddy,
fuck you, Bischoff.
We'll see you next week.
The
The Goods from the Woods was mixed, edited, and distributed by me, Rivers Langley. You can find the show on Twitter at The Goods Pod. Our theme song was composed by DJ Smiles. Check him out on Twitter at DJ Smiles.